everything.
Alright guys, we are back in Introduction to ReactJS Part 1, Components and Advanced JSX. You'll see I have a little bit done here. For some reason it wouldn't reset the code, but this first example is basically just showcasing everything that we already know right now. So we'll just go over it real quick. You're seeing it's rendering in our localhost here, but it's basically saying import this file, create a component called quote maker with the render function that takes in a bunch of HTML and do some stuff with it, and then render out our component at this location. All that should be review, but we're basically going to be making it more complex than what we've done in the past. So let's go ahead and get started here. So we're in app.js. What it's asking us to do is first import our library. So we're going to say var react is equal to require, and then we're going to import the React library like so, and then we're going to do the same thing for React DOM, and we're going to set this equal to require, and this is going to be React-DOM. So we're just importing our two libraries right now. Now in our component class, which we capitalize because it's a component, we're going to create a variable called owl. Owl is going to be equal to react.createClass. So we're creating our component. And in here, we're going to pass an object into it like we normally would. One is going to have a render, and the render is going to be a function that returns a div. It looks like we're not actually putting anything in the div yet. So let's go ahead and run that, make sure everything's pretty straightforward. So render out a div in this component class when we call it. It's taking a second to run. We haven't actually rendered it yet though. So it takes a little bit to run this, but let's go ahead and see what step 3 is here. So inside of that, it wants us to nest an H1, and because it's multiple elements, we typically want to wrap it up in parentheses. And in our H1, we want to pass in the owl.title. So we're going to use the brackets like so, or the curly braces, and say owl.title, and this will output our H1 once we call this. Just going to run that. We haven't output it yet though, so that's why it's still blank. And then on a new line, add an image element, it says here. So it's just making sure our JSX is all correct. So within the div, we want to, but outside the H1, we want to do like so. And don't forget that when dealing with self-closing tags in React, you have to close them. It's not optional like it is in HTML5. It's required for it to be a self-closing tag. You can't just leave it empty. So here we're gonna set the source equal to the owl.source, which is our variable here, and then we're gonna go ahead and set the alt tag equal to owl.title. And then after this, assuming that I didn't mess this up, we are going to go ahead and have the React DOM.render out our component or our application and the location of it. So here, where we want it to render out. So here we want to output our component, and then we want to do it at document.getElementById app. Now, what is this? This is just a simple location in our index here. So if we were to pull this up, you'll see that we have an app right here. This is the ID that we're targeting. So basically saying throw our React code right here. Let's go ahead and run that, and now it should output correctly, assuming I didn't make any mistakes, any typos. There we go. Beautiful owl. Never seen such a beautiful owl. Very cool. Now, render is saying renders must have a return function. You can do calculations above it, stuff like that. It's basically showing us that we can use math.random and just do it outside the render function. Or excuse me, this should be within the render function, not outside of it. So outside the return statement. So let's go ahead and make some render function with logic in it. We're going to import our library again. So require, and what are we requiring? We're requiring the React library, and then we're also requiring the react-dom. It's a little hot in here, guys. I don't know how it is where you guys are at, but it's hot shit at my house. Alright, on line 20, declare a new variable named friend. Alright, fair enough. So, var friend, and it's a component, so we capitalize it. And we're going to set this equal to react.create class, because we're creating a component. And we're going to go ahead and pass in an object, like so. Oops. And then in here, we want to give it one property called render, and render is going to be a function. And what do we want to do with that? We just want to return a div. So right now, we want to return a div. Let's go ahead and run that real quick. Here it says inside of render, we want to declare a new variable called friend. Inside the body of render, declare a new variable called friend. So var friend, and we're just gonna set this equal to one of the friends array. We'll go ahead and do friends index 1. This is our friends array. And then set friends equal. Alright, cool. So we're just creating a variable within render because that's where we're gonna use that. So we're creating in the correct scope here. So inside of the return statement, all we want to do here is create an h1 tag, and then within there, we want to just go ahead and call in the curly braces friend.title. So this is going to be index 0 of the index 1 friends.title. We're just gonna go ahead and output that real quick. And then it looks up next outside the h1, but still within the div. Friend h1. That should work. Friend.title. Let's go ahead and run that one more time. It seems that there is an issue inside the return statement. Inject friend.title. I did friend 0 when I did this before and it worked just fine. So let's see what's going on here. There's probably a small mistake somewhere. Let's see if we can find it. But we create a class, render it, of our friends. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like you have to do friend 0. Friends 1 isn't working. It's just something to keep in mind. It looks like it's a little bit bugged. But anyhow, so now we're going to just do the same thing, except now we're going to do it with an image. So we're going to go img, and remember we have to have the closing bracket, and we're going to set the source equal to friend.src. And of course, make sure you spell everything correctly. pretty cool. And then last but not least, we actually want to render this out. So it's just going to be react.render, and then we're going to pass in the component, which in this case we called friend. And then we're going to pass in the location, it's document.getElement by ID app. And now when we run it, we should see who our friend is and what their title is. Yum, and then whatever. At the bottom line, use react.dom.render. Oh, excuse me, it's react.dom, not react. And then there is our boy, looking yummy, apparently. So, we're in app.js. It says, you can see a variable called 5050. What's going on here is it's choosing a random number between 1.0 and 0. And if it's greater than this, it returns greater than 0.5, it returns true, else it returns false. That's all that's going on here. So, starting on line 7, write a new component class named tonight's plan. So var tonight's plan is equal to react dot create class, and we're gonna go ahead and pass in an object. And it's basically saying output this if it's true, output this if it's false. Now they have an example here that we can use to do that, but I don't think we need to look at it. So it's just a simple if-else statement. So if true, do this. If false, do this. So we can say if 50 is equal to true. It's equal. It should probably be triple equals. We'll just do equal. And don't forget, this is going to be render, and what are we rendering? A function. And let's go ahead and throw our if-else statement in there as well. Got a little ahead of myself. So if that's the case, remember render has to do a return, so we'll return an h1 if it's true. That does what? Tonight I'm going out, woo. Else return an h1 that says tonight I'm going to bed, woo. Let's go ahead and run that. Basically just adding some logic to our render is what this is showing us. Pretty simple if-else statement. If it's true, do this. If it's false, do this. And of course, make sure that you have your semicolons. Did that pass? It might pass without the semicolon, which is kind of bad. I'm just curious before I put it in there if it's going to pass. It does pass, but make sure you throw your semicolons on your return statements. Alright, so now that we've set up that logic, let's go ahead and render out and see what fate has in store for us, as they put it so dramatically. So react.dom.render, and then in here pass in the component, tonight's plan. This would have been so much cooler if they got like, if they were just like Netflix and chill, or I don't know, some they could have made it a little bit funnier. That's one of my main critics of like doing these tutorials is like we're all trying to learn, but why don't you make it a little bit more entertaining in the meantime? But yeah, so are we going out, or are we staying in and doing the Netflix and chill? Let's see here. So it looks like we're going out, boys, for the life of the party. Alright, next up it introduces the this. This is used a lot in React. Now, what is this? This basically refers to properties that are in your object a lot of times. So it's not specific to React. It works exactly kind of how you would use it in JavaScript in general. But I think the easiest way to kind of see how you'll use it is just use it right now. So we're going to create a property here called name. And all we're going to do is give it a value. We'll go ahead and put in my name, Coding Tutorials 360. Don't forget the comma, because these are parameters that we're passing in here. Or properties, excuse me, properties. So what we want to output here is name. However, if we were to do something like this, this would be looking for a variable. That's not accurate. What we need to do is this dot name, because we're looking for a parameter. So you say this represents the object my name, and it's looking for object my name, the object we're in, for the parameter. So find the name parameter from this object, which happens to be my name. I hope I explained that well. But basically this just refers to the object that you're currently iterating in. There we go there. And then inside the functions, oh, we wanted to do more than just that. We actually wanted to go ahead and in the h1 tags put my name is space and then a period. Let's go ahead and put period and then go ahead and run that. My name is Coding Tutorials 360. Bam. We're killing it, boys. Give this. Looks like maybe we need a space. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. I think we have to put this on the same line. It's not registering our code there. So h1/h1. My name is this dot name. Everything should work. There we go. A little bit of technical difficulties there. Render functions often contain event listeners. So it gives us a nice example of an event listener. We have the parameter here, scream, and then we have render. And what we want to do here, excuse me, property. I keep saying parameter. These are properties of this object, of our component object, our component class here. What we're basically going to do here is just pass in our render here, an on-click event. And we're going to set this equal to this, or are we setting it equal to anything? Yeah, we're setting equal to this dot screen. We're basically just defining the function that runs on click here. And what is it? It's the property of our button component. Very nice. And then as we normally would render these things out, we'll do react DOM.render. And within here, what are we rendering? We're rendering our component, which is our button right here. And then we're going to render it out to the usual spot, document.getElement by ID, and that is to the app. Let's go ahead and run that. We should get a button that displays that says ah, and then when we click it, we'll get our alert. So it's our event listener is working just fine. Let's go ahead and go to next, and we have completed that. So basically, everything that we already know about importing the libraries, how to create a component, a little bit of logic and render. The main thing that was kind of different was that we did event listeners. I don't remember if we did that before, but this, just understand that this refers to the property of the object that you're currently working within, and you'll have an easy time. But up next, guys, we'll be doing the components render other components. So your applications or your components are gonna help work within each other and start linking them together. Should be a lot of fun. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. A special thanks to you who support me on Patreon. It helps the channel out a ton. Don't forget to like and share, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed it. And a special thanks to you who support me on Patreon. And if you're a recent college student or a recent college grad, go ahead and go to wayup.com for part-time, full-time, and internships. And a special thanks to codementor.io for sponsoring the React course, which you can get to in the suggested video section. It's the first 2 hours of a 4-part series I'll be doing, led by a React professional, and some really good stuff. See you guys next time.